And howdy folks, it's Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here. Take a look at your tropical update for October 5th of 2020. And take a peek out there and see, well, what's going on? Not much, but it is reasonably active. We've got Delta down here. What's left of Gamma is in here. We're actually not going to talk about Gamma because it's now a tropical depression. The main area of circulation has been separated from the area of convection, which is actually up here. We've got a little wave back here and then another one coming off the coast of Africa as we head through the next couple of days. But first things first, and kind of the only thing we're going to talk about today is Tropical Storm Delta out here. Wind at 70, gusting to 85, pressure down to 983. This thing's likely going through the beginnings of some kind of an intensification process. Could be rapid intensification. We'll have to kind of wait and see. We'll look at some numbers here in a hot second with how it relates to that. But interesting thing to note in here is right in here, now pegged to be a Category 3 as it enters the Gulf of Mexico before it pulls kind of a half a U-turn here and makes its way back toward parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle. There is still an outside chance of this thing pegs parts of extreme eastern Texas, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. It's still moving off to the west at 8 miles an hour. The original thought was it may be moving kind of the west-northwest. I think the original track yesterday had it kind of gliding up kind of that direction and then kind of moving and making more of a northerly and then back off to the northeast. So it's already jogged a little further off to the west. And so if it continues, it may ride up kind of the western side of the cone. Again, we'll kind of have to wait and see. Once it goes through this kind of reorganization and strengthening process through the next couple of hours and through the overnight and into tomorrow morning, I've got an idea. We're going to have a pretty good feeling about where this thing, a better feeling, not a good feeling, a better feeling about where this is going to end up. Interesting thing to note on here is it kind of goes around all the coldest water in the Gulf. And I know this probably isn't going to show. Let me change this to show up on the windshield layer. You can see all of the coldest water kind of right in here as it comes out of the mouth of the Mississippi and kind of dumps into the Gulf. That's where a lot of the coldest stuff is, and this is actually going to ride right around that and pull a kind of a U-turn like that. So far this season, this has been kind of crazy. We had Laura, which kind of dipped underneath this and then did this. We had Sally, which kind of did one of these numbers and then did that. Hannah formed and kind of did one of those. So far this season, every storm that has entered the Gulf of Mexico, even Marco kind of went up like that and then kind of did one of those numbers, has kind of missed hitting the coldest water kind of head on. We've had a couple get close and a couple kind of skirt around the outside, but none of them. I take that back. I think Marco actually did pass over, maybe right over the center of where it was when it was shifted a little off to the northwest. But nevertheless, a lot of the storms this year have missed the coldest water out there. Here in South Mississippi, what are the chances that we deal with tropical storm force wind? Well, pretty decent, 40 to 50% chance basically all across the area. There's even a shot that we deal with the hurricane force wind out of this as well. Not great, 5 to 10% chance, but nevertheless not zero as of this time. The spaghetti plots on this, run through this real quick. You can see that they're in pretty decent agreement as we head through Wednesday afternoon. And then once we get into Thursday, and then as we start marching north through Friday, the models right now have this thing moving a whole lot faster than the official forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. So that's worth noting as well. This may end up speeding up a little bit, and we'll kind of have to wait and see. But for folks that are along the Louisiana coastline, Mississippi coastline, I would plan on this thing showing up as early as Thursday night. As early as Thursday night. That would be what I would prepare for. And then if you're done with your preparations by then and you get a couple of hours to sit back and wait, well, hey, that's good news. You've got time to kind of eat a cheeseburger and hang out. But I would prepare for this thing to be here as early as Thursday night. So I was talking about rapid intensification. Now, full disclosure, I've never seen numbers this high. Now, I haven't been a tropical meteorologist my whole life, and I've only been looking at stuff like the ship's model here for the better part of the last about 5 years. But within my own personal archives, and I save all the data from a lot of the storms that come into the Gulf of Mexico, I don't have any data available to me that shows rapid intensification possible at a number higher than 60% for more than just a single. Usually it's just one is at 60%. If you have something at 60, but usually they're around 10 to 20 to 30%. But if you have one that's at 60, you only have one. I've never seen one that looks like this. This is pretty incredible. Although, makes sense. It's in an area with very low shear. It's in an area with very warm water. So Delta is in a place where it should. Physics says it should go through some kind of a rapid intensification. If it doesn't, that's going to leave us with questions. So there you go. That's why the National Hurricane Center says Category 3 now is kind of the idea, as opposed to just a Category 1 or Category 2. I wouldn't be surprised if it makes a run at a Cat 4. I don't know that it necessarily gets there, but I wouldn't surprise me, given the environment that it's in right now. It's how long can it stay in that environment, and can it dodge the Yucatan? If it can dodge the Yucatan, and it does what the GFS is saying here, and gets into the south-central sections of the Gulf of Mexico by Wednesday, reasonably unscathed, Category 3 is, I think, a pretty easy get at that point, given what we've already seen today, and what we may continue to see as we head through the overnight hours. Now, then it turns and moves off to the north. As it does so, it is going to move over slightly cooler water. So it may not intensify as much. However, I do want to note that the water temperature is warm enough to sustain a hurricane, and I believe, and I'd have to double check the research on this, I believe enough to sustain, but not intensify, but sustain a major hurricane. The problem that this one is going to run into is it's going to start to run into some dry air and some shear. So that's going to be working against it. So in a perfect world, with the water temperature where it is, it could sustain where it is. Now it's going to have to deal with dry air and shear. So there's an idea that this is going to start to weaken as we head through the day on Thursday and into Friday, as it makes a run at making landfall somewhere along the coast of Louisiana or Mississippi, maybe even as far off to the east as Alabama. So we'll have to, unfortunately, we're in wait-and-see mode. I think once we get into Wednesday, we'll have a much better idea about where all the puzzle pieces are going to be. But for now, just know that that's part of the cards here, and it gets kind of swept up and into a little bit of a front here. You can see all the dry air back here in the gray back in behind it. As we move forward in time here, as we get through the middle of next week, we actually get a wave off the coast of Africa, which is weird for this time of the year, but isn't weird for 2020, if there's one thing we've learned that we'll have to keep tabs on as we head through the middle of October. So, there you go. There's your tropical update for October 5th of 2020. All eyes on Tropical Storm Delta. The idea is it's going to strengthen into a hurricane as we head through the overnight hours tonight and through the next couple of days, perhaps even into a major hurricane, and it will pose a threat to parts of the northern Gulf Coast.